This is the vinegar and baking soda lab, which goes with lesson 20 in your Friendly Chemistry course. In this lab, your students will have the opportunity to witness a chemical reaction. The evidence of the chemical reaction in this lab is the production of a gas. Materials that you'll need for this lab include a supply of baking soda and then a supply of vinegar. Your gas generator that you'll build consists of a plastic or glass container with a narrow mouth opening on it. I'm just using a corn syrup bottle here. A ketchup bottle will work just fine also. You'll want the mouth of that opening to not be very large because you're going to stretch a balloon over it. And so as you hunt for a container, just keep that in mind, that you'll want to be able to get the mouth of a balloon over the mouth of the jar there. And so you will need some balloons, and we suggest that the larger balloons you can find are the better, and we do not recommend you use the small little balloons that are used for water balloons. They're just too tight and won't expand easily for you. And then you'll need some means of transferring the baking soda into the balloon. We found that if you, like with a plastic spoon, that if you use the handle part of the spoon, it's narrow enough so that you can get the soda. And we'll demonstrate that here in just a moment. We also recommend that you do this lab on some sort of newspaper or placemat just to make cleanup easier at the end. This lab can get a little messy for you. There are two options that you can take with this lab. The first is just to demonstrate the production of the carbon dioxide gas from the reaction of the baking soda and the vinegar, and allow your students to participate in the creation of that gas. The second option for the lab, which is an extension, is where you will take a set amount of vinegar, a predetermined amount of the vinegar, and then add successively increasing amounts of the baking soda to it in an effort to determine if there's an endpoint to the reaction. In other words, after a certain point of adding soda, does the reaction stop? Do you reach a limit, in other words? So let's just look at that first option first, and then we'll discuss in greater detail the second option you can take with the lab. So what we'll do first is we're going to take some vinegar and we're going to pour it into our corn syrup bottle here. We're going to call this our gas generator from this point forward. So this is the gas generator. We're going to put in about a cup of vinegar to it here. And these measurements for this part of the lab aren't very specific. Just we'll get about a cup of vinegar into here. Now note that in this part of the lab, the more you put of each ingredient, the more soda you put and the more vinegar you put, the more reaction you'll get, and you run a risk of exceeding the capacity of your balloon. So just keep that in mind. It does make it more exciting, but you just need to think about cleanup situations as well. So we're going to take the soda, and again I'm going to use the handle part of the spoon to get some soda, and then we're just going to carefully put it right down into the balloon there best we can, and we'll get a little more. We'll be a little risky here, and we'll just get it right down into that mouth of the balloon. And then what we want to do is shake that soda down so it falls down into the bottom part of the balloon. We don't want much of the reaction to start before we're ready. In other words, we want to be able to get the balloon onto the mouth of the jar and then be able to start the reaction when we're ready to observe it. So I've got my soda shook down into the bottom of my balloon, and this is kind of the tricky part here. You've got to stretch that mouth of that balloon there, and then we're going to attempt to get it over the mouth. Oh, we'll try again here. You can see it's a little tricky. We're going to attempt to get it over the mouth of our jar, like that. Now sometimes these balloons rip and tear, and you may have to have some rubber bands handy to go around the mouth of the jar. Okay, my balloon tore a little bit, but I think I've got the tear down below the side of the jar there, so I won't have any leaks here. Okay, so let me get some of this out of the way here so we can view this. So now you'll want to make sure all your students are gathered around and can see what's going to happen. We're just going to take now and lift the balloon and let the soda fall down into the vinegar, and we should get a rapid reaction. So let's go ahead and do that here. You can see, and here goes the balloon, growing, and there we go. I think I've got a little bit of a hole here. I can feel some gas leaking here around the side. And then your students can look down in the bottom and definitely see all the bubble formation down here, the rapid reaction between the acetic acid of the vinegar and then the sodium bicarbonate of the baking soda. And then here's our gas that we've collected up here in the balloon. Okay, now you can repeat this many times. You can let your students do it. It's a lot of fun. You can be a little more brave and add a little more vinegar, add a little more soda, and then just watch the size of the balloon. Now you can also use latex exam gloves. You have to be careful about the latex and some your student sensitivity to it, but the latex exam gloves you can also use and stretch over, but you'll have to have a rubber band to get that your seal tight around the top of the gas generator here. And it's fun watching. The balloon will inflate and all the fingers will pop out, and it's kind of fun to watch. But that's just another, if you don't have balloons. Now the neoprene gloves, the vinyl gloves, don't expand, so they won't work very well for this lab. So that's the first option of the lab. Now if you choose to go ahead with the second part of the lab, you'll need to refer to the data table that your students will have in their book. On the chart here you can see we've got a series of trial numbers, and then the next column over says amount of baking soda, the diameter of the balloon, and any other observations that you make. So what you'll do with this part of the lab is have a predetermined amount of vinegar that you're going to put for each trial in your gas generator. So you might start with, say, a half a cup of vinegar, and that amount will remain constant for each trial. You'll need to keep in mind how much your supply of vinegar you have on hand as well, because if you decide to start with a half a cup, just know that you'll have to have several half cups available in your stock container here. So if you start with a half a cup of vinegar, the next thing you'll need to determine is how much baking soda you're going to add for each trial. We recommend maybe starting in teaspoons, and so instead of using the plastic spoon this time, what you'll want to do first is use a measuring spoon and get out half a teaspoon increments. And then what you'll do is you'll take that half teaspoon and put it in your balloon or your glove, and then shake it down to the bottom, affix it to the top of your gas generator jar here, and then lift and let the reaction take place. Now the idea here is to allow the gas to fill up the balloon, and then you'll measure the diameter of the balloon, or the circumference of the balloon, around how big the balloon gets. So, and you can measure that with a tape measure or with a string, and then lay that string along the side of a ruler. So, and then you'll repeat the trial with a greater amount of baking soda. So if you start with, say, 1 teaspoon, then you'll go to 2 teaspoons and 3 teaspoons and 4, and so on, and keep measuring the diameter of the balloon. The idea here, the intent here, is to for your students to realize that with that limited or that constant amount of vinegar you have each time, is there a limit to how far the reaction can go? And obviously there has to be a certain amount of vinegar and soda combination. And so what you'll likely see is the balloon will continue to grow for a certain period of time, and then it's going to level off, because the more soda you add, if you have the same amount of vinegar to start, it's not going to build any more gas. Okay, so cleanup now is simple. This soda and vinegar result here of the reaction can be just washed safely down the drain, and there should be no issues there with your disposal. So this is the baking soda and vinegar lab, which goes with lesson 20. There is another part of the lab which is in your text, where you actually measure the amount of gas that's produced from your gas generator. There's a diagram in your teacher edition which is pretty straightforward. You basically have a gas generator. Instead of a balloon on top, you'll have your cap on the top with a place for a hose to exit, and then that hose goes into a water-filled container. As the gas comes out, it'll travel through the hose and it'll bubble into the water-filled container, pushing the water out, and there you can collect the gas that way. So refer to that diagram there in your teacher edition. It's pretty straightforward. If you have some students who are more interested in doing that, by all means go ahead. It can get messy. You have to have a good supply of water there to work with, but it sure is a rewarding experience as well. So have fun with your students with this vinegar and baking soda lab.